Mr. Deputy Speaker, and it is an interesting motion to have to speak against, because I work with a number of members on the opposite side on a range of different issues on foreign affairs and on development, and to find myself on a polar opposite side on an issue that I care deeply about, I find somewhat frustrating. But as already has been said by the member for the Foreign Affairs Select Committee and by the member for the Intelligence Select Committee, if there is the ability for select committees to take that decision to unilaterally do an investigation and inquiry into Afghanistan, then the opportunity is already there. And I mean no disrespect to the previous speaker when intervening and suggesting that point. And I am not either giving advice to the Labour Party, but to have used this motion to come up with that suggestion and this motion seems to be at odds with what we really want to do, because members across this House have raised the legitimate concerns that they have with what they want to do to help constituents and their families who may be in Afghanistan. And I want to give concentration to that, because as the Minister said in his opening remarks, we have to focus on using the leverages that are the levers that are at our disposal, diplomatic in the form of G7 or NATO or UN, and failing that, they should look to see how they can cooperate with others in the region or others who may have a vested interest in helping out in this circumstance, a D10 plus perhaps. But that's what we have to be looking at, because inquiries will not help the people of Afghanistan now when we so most desperately need to do so. And that's what we should be focusing on. But to help the people of Afghanistan, and I was surprised by the Shadow Foreign Secretary, who makes incredibly powerful speeches, but that she didn't pay more attention to what support we can give to the NGOs. The only Western organisations that are still on the ground, in Afghanistan are the NGOs. In fact, if the Honourable Lady wants to intervene on me, she's more than welcome to.
I'm very grateful to him for taking my intervention. I have written to the Foreign Secretary 3 times on that very point and not received a response. So perhaps the Minister, who's heard this exchange, will respond to that point today.
Very much, and I was making the point within your speech this afternoon and not what private letters I wouldn't have seen. But I make the point that we have had conversations, and I have had conversations with the Minister, including last night, about what extra support we can give to those NGOs. I think this House needs to think very carefully about how we integrate and operate with the NGOs that are existing and how we can support them, because it is in the Taliban's interest that those organisations stay there in the first place. The second point, as I've made before in this chamber, was to how we can see our embassy reopened. Now, there are clearly a set of parameters that are going to have to be met to allow us to reopen the British Embassy. But to do so allows us to have a diplomatic network and a presence in Afghanistan again. And by the way, I hasten to add that we have the most extensive diplomatic network in the world, of which most of our allies rely on, including in places such as North Korea. These are the things that we need to think about so that we can help the people of Afghanistan, not through inquiries, but through delegated action and achievement in helping to bring those people back and over to the UK. And the last point I would make, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is the point on preventing sexual violence in conflict, which I chair the All-Party Parliamentary Group. The new member from Batley and Spen raised the point about women in Afghanistan, and rightly so. We have to think about how an initiative like this can be emboldened to help those who are most likely to be at risk in one of the most despotic regimes in the world. Concentration on these organisations and these suggestions, I think, would do far more than calling for inquiries, which I feel will not give any hope and peace of mind to the people of Afghanistan.